Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. It is November 30th. I cannot believe it. It's almost surreal. We've only got another month of the year. We're going to get out of 2020, escape from 2020. We can make it another month. All right, before we jump into our morning analysis, let me take care of a quick housekeeping item. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. My guest today, as usual, from Keep Trading Simple, we've got Brian Caprice. It is important for you to note that trading does involve risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, and that any trading decisions you make are solely at your responsibility and at your own risk. Please do not construe anything we say today as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So with that, Brian, I know we want to talk about a couple of things today, but why don't we start off? I know that the OPEC Plus meeting was yesterday, OPEC's meeting again today. You want to give us a little bit on what's going on with oil?
Yeah, so oil's an interesting situation, obviously very demand focused. For those of you that aren't kind of in the know with oil, OPEC Plus, the kind of, I guess, original kind of members, for joking, the OG members, decided to have production cuts to be able to stabilize the price of oil when it was collapsing earlier this year, again, due to COVID. Across the board, there was expected to be lower demand as other energy sources are becoming more viable. They've had that cut in place, and there's actually been some news. So there was an emergency meeting Saturday for the OPEC Plus members. There was a regular OPEC meeting yesterday, as well as it rolls into today. And there's a couple of different headlines. Let me see if I can get a couple of them. So here's kind of one of the first ones, that there is light at the end of the tunnel by the OPEC president. And it's interesting. And it's kind of one of those things that it's, you can kind of follow the sources here. And they talk about how they see demand continuing. The market conditions are going to continue into the first quarter of 2021, meaning demand is going to be low. You can look across and you can see that Putin has no plans to talk to Saudi Arabia. And again, that's kind of where one of the big rifts are in this. You can see that prices have, they've seen, supply increase from Libya and UAE. And again, these were two of the nations that were kind of dissenting, as far as what the cuts were going to be. And one of the things that people have to realize with this, and I mentioned it Friday, is cuts sound great, but unfortunately, OPEC is not the only producers in the world of oil. Now, there's a lot of money made off of oil, and a lot of people don't realize how much truly is made off of that one. It's one of the main factors. For the Canadian government, it's one of their main exports is oil. They send it to the United States, we refine it, and then we send it back. The United States, we produce a ton now. So OPEC does not have the control that it did in, say, the 80s and 90s. So while everybody right now is currently playing by the rules, you can see down here that Saudi Arabia is keeping the supply steady, and a couple other nations are increasing. When they look at their neighbors and they say, hey, listen, wait, they're producing more oil, they're going to make more money because they're producing, eventually greed steps into this market. And again, everybody wants to get paid. For the people that are making up the differences, they're reaping the biggest benefits. So eventually it kind of crumbles from the bottom. So seeing these kind of different headlines going to a Monday morning with an emergency meeting talking about what we're going to continue it. And again, followed by the COVID news that we have. I mean, there was COVID news this morning as well that obviously helps oil. And again, that could be one of the reasons right now. Let me bring it across the oil chart. You are seeing oil kind of surging right now. And one of those reasons why is because Moderna, they released data about an hour ago that says their COVID vaccine is more than 94% effective, getting in that kind of second round. So, again, that's always good. Again, vaccine means recovery, means, again, greater demand for oil. And we're kind of seeing that right here on the chart. So I left some of the lines we had on last week. If you guys remember, these two orange lines were higher time frame area of supply. And you can see we've kind of hit into it. And it's been an area where prices had some, obviously, difficulty, right? We kind of punched into here and then kind of cut through. And then it became a bottom. And then it broke back through and it became the top. And then it based in and kind of came lower. And now we're there again. So there was one area that you can see right here where there was an area of sellers that really had a forcible move to the downside. And again, that was for last week. Now, it's at the top of that zone, so we expect it to kind of be a bit choppy around there. What I was trying to do, and I'll go ahead and delete both of these now since I've explained again what they are, just to keep the chart simple, is, again, when we're talking about trying to find areas of the curve where we have, kind of extreme ranges, Well, right now, if I had to draw it, and you guys know I don't use that one, I use gray, which I'm not going to be able to find a gray here, but we use blue. You can see that this area up top, and that's approximately around $46, again, right around that 00 mark, is the last time that not only have sellers stepped in, we've had a nice punch, a base, and a drop, but then they try to test it again, and then the sellers have stepped in again. So it's kind of an area I'm looking up for potential shorts. Again, was looking for us to clear through this zone. I wanted us to clear through this early. Again, that was kind of in the middle. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm using this as a potential area for sells. And again, I can move this across so it's kind of consistent for you, as well as kind of buys coming in right back down here where we had buyers step in at 44.60-ish. I think any big headlines today will obviously have a big impact for that. But particularly when traders get online, I think oil can be pretty choppy between these two areas. I wouldn't be surprised today if we continue to rally up after the open, grab that 46, put in kind of a top like this, one of those failure to go higher situations where we hit it, bounce back, and then kind of test it to push kind of back down to the downside. Because, like I said, hearing things like lockdowns, I've seen many different sources today already talk about how they're expecting record numbers coming in from the Thanksgiving travel holidays, that way too many people traveled. Again, additional lockdowns means less demand in the United States, and we use pretty much more oil than anybody else. So that's what I have going on for oil.
So yeah, that's definitely some levels. So that 46 up above, something that people can keep an eye on. You can take a look over knockouts. Binary options might be a way to kind of play that. Over on Nadex, you could, if you see it up there, there might be some levels that could be interesting for people to trade at. I'm not going to jump over to the platform now just because I want to keep moving along this morning. Sure. We're trying to keep it tight. The other thing that might be interesting. The pound, I know, is sort of also a bit story driven. So I don't know if you want to give us
so this is the news for the morning so far, and really in the last hour and a half. And again, there was great movement for those of you that know. Trading the UK Open, it tends to be a great time to trade. A lot of movement, a lot of chop back and forth. And this is kind of, again, in the hottest news, what we've seen so far this morning. You can see the EU-UK, trade talks are quite different. Or difficult, and there's massive divergences. UK sources say they can see a political solution, but one of the biggest sticking points, again, is the fishing rights. Again, you don't have to know all the specifics, just know there's differences. And then again, down here, the UK is not prepared to change the negotiating position. Okay, so many different comments, and all of these about the UK. And again, we're a day from December where that hard deadline is coming. So it's one of those things I wanted to make sure we touch on that. And again, you guys, if you wanted to see it, you can see all the Moderna information over here into the middle. So this is a lot of Brexit, and that's what we've been waiting for. And let me bring the chart up of that one and kind of give kind of an idea. That's actually silver, which we can mention as well if we have time. But so you're seeing, again, the pound yen kind of skyrocketing and pushing through levels right now. So one of the interesting thing about the pound, and not necessarily just pound yen, but pound dollar as well, you're seeing it kind of across the board. I'll touch on the pound dollar real quick. This was a level from this morning. And again, this was the UK Open reacting to what had happened over the weekends, any discussions, and we saw a very, very quick burst down back into the area where the gap formed from Friday. Yep. This was the Friday gap, and then a rally back up again. So it's trading very, very technical right now. Okay, it's coming back up into levels. The pound yen is the one that I expect to have a bit more movement. And one area that I pointed out was the 139.26. Now, this is an area where we've definitely had some sellers step in here, some sellers step in here, a couple sellers step in here. The problem with this level, and the reason why it's breaking through right now, is because it's been poked so many different times right now, there's not many sellers left.
Right.
So what we have to do is look for the next higher level, and I actually really like this level. It's back in the upper regions of the curve. You can see that we had a bit of a gap right in here. We based, we came back, we tried to push lower, we retested, and then got slammed back down again. So I'm actually kind of looking for a rally in this position up to the 139.74 area. And again, that would coincide with probably like a 10 o'clock reversal today. But what it does is it gives the U.S. market, again, associated with the yen, time to step in and provide us some type of an oomph, kind of a push forward. And again, a bit higher, okay? Then when everybody's adjusted, get a potential rollover. But I have levels up at 139.74, 140. Again, 11, we have another larger term level. And again, that is also at the extreme ranges of the curve. So what I'm looking for is, again, U.S. trader to step in, provide yen weakness. And again, we've seen yen weakness on about 4 different pairs. So I am waiting for a reversal for yen weakness on a few of them. And that's why I like the pound yen as far as the potential.
Awesome. I want to jump over to the Nadex platform and actually take a look at that specifically, because it is looking like an interesting potential trade setup. Here we are with some with the knockouts. That lower level. There is a knockout here, but I mean you're looking for it. I mean you wanted to see it break through this 139.25-ish range, which was and it did. It kept on getting touched. 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth time, and it's finally going through it. So maybe if people are interested, they could take a look at some other knockouts where there are some levels where if it were to come up to that 139, 74-ish range, there are some knockouts up here where if you were looking for a rollover, it could be interesting to potentially take a short position. If that actually plays out that way. I think it's actually interesting is there's also call spreads that we've got. I'm going to jump over to the pound yen call spread. So bear with me for 1 second here. I'll take a look at our daily. And in fact, let's just kind of slide this out of the way. There's those two levels again, but we've got a call spread where it could be a way to, it could be interesting if it were to get up to this level again, where you could mitigate your risk if you were looking for a rollover and it were to go higher. Again, with call spreads, remember, it can go through the level and you're not knocked out of the trade. You have time to be right. So even if it punches through a little bit and then eventually rolls back, you're still in your call spread. You don't get, there is a premium a little bit of associated for that optionality, but there's an opportunity. So something people might want to take a look at, either, if they're looking at the pound yen, either the knockout or the call spread could be interesting. Of course, we always have our binary options. You mentioned, looking for a 10 o'clock. So if I were to test, I just want to take a quick peek at what's going on. Helps if I go to pound yen, and I want to go to the right one. Here we go. There are some, there are some binary options up in here that could get kind of interesting, depending. The one other thing I would like to mention before we is there are some events contracts this week. Jobless claims, non-farm payrolls. If you're not familiar with our binary options in the events, we do have the unemployment rate that's coming out on later this week, and these are binary options. Obviously, the with 50% being right around that 6.9% level, that's kind of what the expectations are, that it's going to come in right around this number. But there's ways for you to potentially play if you don't think it's going to, if you don't think it's going to make it above that level, or if you think it's going to be lower, there are ways for you to play binary options around these economic events. What I would like to do, because you mentioned it, and let's give it a quick minute. Is there anything that you want to talk about? You mentioned gold.
Yeah, there's a headline I want to bring in silver. Gold.
All right, so here, let me do this for you.
You guys can see her. It's kind of funny, the camera. She has dark hair, so you guys can't actually see her a little bit because her hair is black. One thing I wanted to talk about, again, with gold collapsing. We talked about the gold collapse last week. Here's one of the headlines from this morning, talking about how the inflation rate in Germany, again, very important for the European economy, is actually showing a negative number. So we've seen almost flat. This is one of the first ones where we've seen negative numbers and prices decreasing. And again, this is the largest economy, the most powerful kind of backbone of the European industrial kind of force. Again, seeing negative numbers is not great for gold and silver sellers. Again, here is what gold looks like. Again, you've seen this collapse over the last week. This is a 4-hour chart, really starting from the 9th. November was not very kind to gold. We're seeing it push lower. On a larger time frame, again, we see that we have a bunch of different buyers stepping in at like 1777, 1750. So there's a lot in here. Again, not really clean level until we get down into this 1695. So we're at 1771 now. Could we be breaking 1700 this week? It's possible. And again, if it starts to go down, we see things get much worse, stimulus will be mentioned. As far as silver goes, silver is actually sitting at a level right now on the 4-hour. We talked about the 2120, 2190 last week. And you can see for the last 12 hours, not only did it crash into it, but it's been stabilizing. So there may be something small here. There may be some type of an opportunity. Maybe look for something a little bit longer duration. But seeing numbers from economies as big as Germany showing negative inflation, not too great for the gold traders out there.
Well, we gave people a lot this morning. We hit it hard on a Monday, on Cyber Monday. So with that, remember, Brian and I are doing this every day, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. If you've got any questions for Nadex about our contracts, our products, your account, any questions, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Follow us on social media. You're watching this on YouTube. I would recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll get the alerts when we do go live.
Click the bell for notification.
Oh, and yeah, set a reminder. Definitely set a reminder.
Yep. And we'll let you know when we go live.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And then if you have any questions for Brian, support@keeptradingsimple.com. You can email him there. He is accessible. So please feel free to reach out to Brian. And with that, I just want to say let's get at it this week. The holidays behind us for Thanksgiving, and we've got some time before Christmas. So yeah, let's stay focused. We'll see what happens in the news and stay safe. Good luck in the markets. Thanks, everyone.